In this demo, I'll demonstrate how to install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. I've just booted my virtual machine from the installation DVD. As you can see, here is the default options that are presented from the boot menu on the installation DVD. By default, it will use test this media and install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, but testing the media just takes a lot of time. So normally you wouldn't want to use install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. If for any reason install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 doesn't work, you can also go to troubleshoot. If you select it and enter, you can see that there are some advanced installation options, of which install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 in basic graphic mode is probably the most interesting. But I'm not going to use it here, so I select return to main menu and install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. This takes a while for my system to get started. When the installation program has been loaded, it's gonna ask you some questions. First of them is the language that you want to use. Just in this course, I'm using English, which is English language with an English keyboard. So I just keep it like it and click continue. Next is the installation summary. In the installation summary, there is a couple of things we need to change. First, there is a software selection, which by default goes to minimal installation. Minimal installation is fine, but you won't have much, and to get you started easily in this course, we want to change it, and here you can change it. See the base environment here, and in the base environment, we want to install server with GUI. I know normal servers typically in data centers do not have GUI installed, but to learn how to work with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, it really is convenient to have GUI installed. So just select server with GUI and then click done. Now you need to wait while the program updates. And you can see that the installation source is set to local media, which is good. And the software selection is set to server with GUI, which is fine. As well, now the installation destination specifies where you want to install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. The default selection is that it's going to use the entire hard disk to do that, and that's fine with me. I don't want to mess with the partitioning right now. We will cover that in a later chapter during this course. So from here, just verify the options. You can see that it's going to use SDA and its size is 20 GB, and you can see that it's VMware environment. Typically, you will find some more details about your hard drive here. If you are happy with that, just click done. Next, you can see the network and the host name. It isn't red or anything, so you might be tempted to think it's okay, but it's not, because by default the network is not connected, which isn't very useful because we are installing a server. So just click here to switch the network on. You can see my server has obtained the IP address and all the other information like default root and DNS. Of course, you can change that, but we are not going to do that in this point. I'll teach you later how to configure network. There is one thing I do need you to change. That's the host name. Typically, the host name is complete DNS name. That's only the name of the host itself, but also includes the DNS domain. As this is going to be a server that's not registered anywhere, I'm going to use railserver.example.com as default DNS name for the server. As I've configured everything, I can click begin installation to start the installation. You can see right here, it starts creating file systems and everything. I need to get myself working with a server, but still there are some things that need to be taken care of. First of them is the root password. You probably know that root is the system administrator. There are no limits whatsoever for root. So in a normal server, you should be careful and select password that is kind of difficult to guess. For this course, I would like you to work with simple password. So I'm just going to type password here because this is a demo environment. And I want to make it easy as possible for you to work in this environment. So enter the password twice and you will see a warning here. that the password you provided is weak, and that is because the password fails the dictionary check. It's kind of obvious because password is a dictionary word and I can use it anywhere. All you have to click done twice, and now I can go on and create a user. You might ask, is it necessary to create a user? Well, I think it is, because you don't want to be working as root all the time. Root has too many possibilities on the system, and it's just too easy to break things. So if you just need to check something simple on a server, it's convenient if you have a user account. So I'm creating a user Lisa, and I'm giving her a password again. If this user needs admin privileges, and you can select it here, but I'm not going to do that. And I'll explain later why and which are the options that you can use to create admin user. So I just click done. And again, you see that the system is still being installed. This will typically take 5 minutes or so if you are using latest hardware. If you are on the older hardware, well, it might take considerably longer. So let's wait for that before we continue. So when all files have been copied, you can just click reboot to restart your server. Here you can see the boot menu. You don't have to do anything, it will start automatically. It will take a minute or so before you are ready to work with the server. As you can see here, there is one remaining task, that's the license agreement. So click here to accept the license agreement. And here I accept the license agreement. Click done, and you can click finish configuration to finalize the configuration process. Here the first step is kdump. Kdump is a core dump terminal in case your server crashes. It takes image of the server memory and it can be analyzed later by a debugger. So the default in kdump is started automatically. And it takes 167 MB of RAM. You don't have to select it, you can just deselect it by clicking on enable kdump. Because this is Linux and Linux doesn't crash often in general, you can always turn it on later. Click forward. It asks you that changing kdump settings requires rebooting. Would you like to continue with this change and reboot the system after first boot? Click yes. It's going to reboot once more, but it will do that later. First, let's finish the installation. It asks you if you want to register with Red Hat Network. So Red Hat Network requires paid license. If you have a paid license, then you can select yes. I would like to register now. Otherwise, select no. I prefer to register at a later time. Click finish. It's going to reboot the server. First thing you'll see is a screen with user Lisa as we created. I'll enter the password for Lisa. And then click sign in. This is a nice way of logging into Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So there we go, that's our graphical desktop. Because it's the first time I'm logging into graphical desktop, there are a few more questions to answer. So I'm selecting the language first as English. And then the language of input source as English too. Then I click next because I don't want to connect to the server to my cloud right now. And now my computer is ready to use.